And hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast. It's the absolutely Premier League show and Carabao Cup final show. It didn't really sound quite as glossy, so we've kept it as the Premier League show today, plus the Carabao Cup final. Hope everybody's doing well. Another fantastic weekend of football. It's just the two of us tonight. But say if I could have anybody on to join me for an evening's chat of football, however long we may be going for tonight. Welcome to Rebecca. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Excited to be on talking everything Premier League and Scottish Prem because I have made sure the many messages I have sent that we will be talking about that today. But no, yeah, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad at all, thank you. Of course, yes, we did. We did say that Dundee will be discussed. That was Rebecca's one key to come on the show. So I've never had so many messages about Dundee in one day. So we have definitely got Dundee Cup. Even so much, I sent you a picture, didn't I? Of I think whatever they call it on TikTok, an AI picture of Rebecca in a Dundee shirt as a supporter. That's how deep into the Dundee love that we will be going into tonight. But welcome to everybody else.
I was a sponsor, weren't I, of Dundee? Like I was the main shirt sponsor.
You were. They had a Dundee shirt sponsored by Rebecca. I'll have to share it on the Absolute Pod channel afterwards. The new Dundee shirt for next season. But I hope everyone is having a good week as well. We've got a hello to Johnny. Welcome to you, Johnny, in the chat. And he's delighted. He's delighted that Dundee won for you. So there you go. One of many derbies that was this weekend. It was a bit derby heavy in what was going on. But the first thing we have to talk about was the first showpiece of the season. The first trophy was awarded, if we don't count the Community Shield, which I think it's fair to say that we don't. But the EFL Cup, the Carabao Cup final, Newcastle United 2, Liverpool 1. Newcastle ends 70 years of no major trophy, if you just count kind of the championship. But in terms of a cup competition, that's an amazing achievement for them. And of course, we have to start, Rebecca, with the biggest question. We only ask the big questions on the Absolute Football Podcast for the Carabao Cup final. Have you ever had a can of Carabao? That's my first question. Nor have I. Have you ever seen a can of Carabao? I've seen one, but not like for purchase.
Not in person. Like Accrington will do like a promotion of it like once in a while when it's been like the cup. But I've never so I've seen pictures, but never seen one like in person.
Never an actual in-person wheel. We're not sure that they exist. So, let us know in the chat if you've had a can of Carabao. Other drinks, of course, are available. But but do let us know. An evening to Spenny fan Chris. Half time here in the Spennymoor game. Hope everyone is okay. I know more midweek fixtures going on. Orion Shah is at Rochdale as well today, so that's going on. I think Rochdale have got to play every Tuesday until September, I think, to catch up at the moment. So. Sean Evans, welcome to you. I don't know why I full named you then. I just went with it. Hi, both. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well, Sean. Have you ever had a can of Carabao? And Johnny says, I'm glad Newcastle won, so I presume that there's a slag off his family. And Sean, a Carabao sour apple is very nice. So there we go. We're learning about Carabao. But as much as that was an important question, Rebecca, Newcastle winning their first trophy. What did you make of that, and what did you make of the celebrations?
Well, like not to trump on Newcastle's parade, it was one that Liverpool didn't turn up. I like the Liverpool we saw against Newcastle isn't what we can see in the league and what we have seen in the league. I mean, their marking of that corner, I'm still confused as to why they had Alexis McAllister, who I think even I could be taller than, and I'm not that tall, marking Dan Burton, who is over 6'5". Like that just didn't work, and I don't know what they were thinking with that one, but leaving unmarked Dan Burton just to be able to head in first goal. I mean, incredible header from him, and fair play to Newcastle. They took the advantage when they saw it and they knew what they were doing, and they had done their research on Liverpool to be able to get these sort of chances, and then Isaac doubling the lead with a very well worked strike. And it was just one of them where Newcastle deserved the win. I'm saying this through gritted teeth as I saw Anthony Gordon with the medal, but it's fine. But no, Liverpool did try to pull it back, but 94th minute you get your first goal. It was a bit too late on, but yeah, fair play to Newcastle. And I mean, the fans at the end of the match, you could see how much it meant to every single one of them, and the players as well, like the emotion from Guimaraes and everything. It was quite nice to see.
It's a fan base that it's been a long time coming. When you talk about how long since that trophy, that's almost 3 generations of football fans. So it was amazing that kind of families were all experiencing this for the first time all together. Obviously, making 2 years ago, making the final as well, and coming up short in that one. Felt to me like they'd learned a lot from that first final. Eddie Howe spoke before the game, I think, about how they changed the hotel last time. They said right close to Wembley and felt that they almost kind of got too hyped up too early. And they made little subtle changes. And a really fantastic win. We'll come on to goals in a second. We've got more people coming into the chat as well. Evening to Simon, evening to you. Hope you're well. Hey up to Jamie. Jamie, welcome to you. And hey, you pair of stunners from our very own stunner, Claire Jeffs, is in the chat as well. Welcome to you, Claire. Welcome to you. Absolutely incredible for Newcastle. We'll start with that first goal, as you said, Rebecca, Dan Burn. There was a couple of warning signs with a couple of corners already where he'd won the ball. Crazy matchup. It seemed to me that Liverpool had almost said, because he was at that kind of back post, far off position, we're less worried about it than if he's in the 6-yard box and we manage it. But they had a couple of warnings and they didn't change and they didn't manage it. I mean, for Dan Burn though, a real kind of journeyman of a footballer. What a week for him. He gets the England call up, which we'll talk about later. And he scores the first goal in the fight. How do you feel for Dan Burn himself?
Yeah, I think you could see the emotion from him after the match. It's incredible for him, and to be able to, especially with the England call up, you just don't know how that could be resting on any of the players' mind that have got the call up, especially with such a big match ahead of him with the cup final. But it's one of them. He deserved the goal. The way that he works it in the box, where he positioned himself and everything like that, it just worked, and that is what we have seen Newcastle do with their set pieces. Of they get it right and they just keep doing it that way. And as you said, Liverpool had the warning signs there, and they were clearly there for them to change it, and they just never did. So it's one of them where Dan Burn was just happy enough to stick it in back at net. And it's especially with his journey to then be able to say he helped Newcastle win the Carabao Cup at Wembley and everything like that, and to say where he was a few years ago, it is just really good to be able to see that there is this in kind of a way the human side to footballers, because a lot of them are just seen as robots. So it's for him to be able to show the emotion and share the story that he's been through to get to this point, it is really nice.
I think as well, someone like Dan Burn is kind of the epitome of the Eddie Howe era at Newcastle as well, isn't it? Because obviously through, part of it, we had the massive takeover. Everyone thought, here comes Newcastle spending money, etc., which by FFP is kind of limited some of that. But what Eddie Howe's done fantastically is really bring on the players that they've had. They've become kind of completely different threats. Dan Burn's one of them. You're looking at someone like Joe Linton is another. They've just he's turned them to Willock, people like Jacob Murphy, increased as players. And I think one thing for me, Dan Burn was always one everybody went, well, he won't be there eventually because they'll get it. And he's almost kind of taken that as he's got different qualities and things that massively rates. And obviously Lewis Hall's been out. They've had some troubles at kind of left back and full back positions, but incredible for him to be the man to get the goal. And then we had Newcastle for me started the game fantastic. It's how they needed to start it. The crowd support was as expected, absolutely fever pitch. They had that right intensity. That midfield between Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, fantastic. They played as well as they can play as a three, and they really did stifle Liverpool's midfield. But that second goal was the killer for me, because the fact that they had the offside decision sort of moments before, that could have weighed heavily, I think, on them, started to sort of question, and then you start to think, is the final going? But the fact that they scored so quickly, and the bit I loved as well was how calm was Isak once he scored. you think of most players in a cup final, it was almost Thierry Henry-esque, was like, yeah, I'm the guy. How did you like the second goal and the celebration?
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, you are a bit like, why didn't he just like do every single celebration that he could
tear it out the stadium
do?
and just be running down
like
Wembley Way. Newcastle scarf.
I think he could have done anything, but I feel as though the reaction from him just showed that Newcastle weren't thinking, 2-0, we've won this. They were still keeping as level-headed as possible, to the point where it's like, right, yes, we are 2-0 up. Yes, the end is in sight, but we still need to make sure that we are keeping this calm and collected, as much as I think inside he must have been screaming, just going, oh my God, I've
scored. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that he must have to sort of keep it calm. But I suppose that supposed how much he believes in his ability. It was a really sort of clever finish. Sean says, I think if that disallowed goal actually counted, I think it would have pretty much been game over. I mean, I think the second one, to an extent, just really raised the belief. Really raised the belief for the Newcastle fans. Evening to Matthew. Matthew's joined us in as well. He's sort of regular with our Team Chaos on a Wednesday. Welcome in, Matthew. And Spenny fan Chris says, I heard somewhere that Liverpool have played 9 more games than Newcastle, but on the day the Toon Army came out on top. No matter what, I had myself a beer, even though I'm sick. Well, there you go. There's always a reason. The disallowed goal would have been pretty much. I mean, the second goal, as it was, I said, it just gave that confidence to an extent. It calmed them down a little bit, to a point where that first one was like, oh my God, we scored a goal at Wembley. This is crazy. And then the second one, people were kind of like, well, hang on a minute. This is very much on. This is very much a possibility. Switching it to the second half now, Rebecca. So obviously that second goal coming sort of the second half, as we said, calm them down, etc. At what point did you think Newcastle, you felt really confident? And how did you think going into the game? Did you think there was much of a chance for Newcastle?
I was really hoping for Newcastle, I'll be honest. Like, I think everyone would have known that with my little Everton head on. Like, it would have been better for Newcastle. But going into it, I did think it could have been Liverpool. You've got them being knocked out of the Champions League, which would have had an effect on them. But you think, right, they still had this trophy to go and get. So you just didn't know if the Liverpool that play in the league, that we see 2 teams apart at times, would be turning up for the cup final, and that team just didn't show up. But I think, as I said, like heading into it, you did think that Liverpool were going to edge it. It just seems to be the common theme with cup finals at times. Like, they just get the really late on penalty, win it 1-0. It's like what could have been written for it. But no, I mean, for Newcastle, I think as soon as the second goal went in, the one that was given, and Isaac, the calm collectedness of him, I think it was that point that I knew, like, right, this is Newcastle's trophy to get now. Just needed to keep playing how they did. I mean, I did miss the first half, so I don't have much to go off with that, but the Newcastle that I saw in the second half, as soon, like 1-0, you're always going to have the nerves of, oh God, what's going to happen? But cementing the 2-0 and just seeing them carry on playing as they did, there wasn't any sitting back or letting Liverpool run all over them. They played how they should be playing. So I think it was from that point that you knew that, right, Newcastle, they're in for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the confidence grew as it went on. And it's a good point made by Damo, joined us last week. Thank Damo for joining us last week, talking about the preview of the game. And at that point, the Champions League was going on against Paris Saint-Germain. Said he's worried that the tiredness could ruin them against Newcastle. And we ran into the ground again. It's certainly the team that probably was the worst team they could have faced, because it was a team that were going to absolutely throw everything on the line. This was the game of their lives to get that over the line for the Toon. Do you think, Damo, like, you know, that it was the tiredness that was in there? Because I thought, watching it, that midfield three was always going to be a problem and a stretch, I think, anyhow, going into that, particularly, as you said, you know, there wasn't a lot of freshness from the team that went out against PSG. But also, the thing that surprised me the most, Rebecca, I don't know about you, was what Slot's been fantastic at this season is getting them back on track in the second halves, the substitutions tactically. And this all seemed a little bit panic stations. It was kind of like just throw every attacker on. The shape, if anything, I thought it stretched the game. It made Newcastle look more threatening. What did you think? Because Slot was just kind of bringing on attacking the players, attacking players, attacking players. Like they've got about 7 attacking players and Van Dijk up front as well. What did you make of that? I thought Curtis Jones was good, but apart from that, it was all a bit scatty.
Yeah, I feel like he kind of went into like panic mode a bit of, right, I need to try and do something because, I mean, fans are never happy when your team's losing, and it's always calling on the manager being like, right, make the change. And he made the changes, whether they were the right ones or not. Or I think, like as you said, it did just seem to be like a hit and hope with, right, I'll shove these on and see what can happen. But then the effect that had on the formation in terms of Newcastle were just able to be like, gap here, gap there, and just running into it. And I feel as though that was it. The way that he set it up in the second half with the subs benefited Newcastle more than it did Liverpool. I mean, you could see what he was trying to go for, but it just didn't work because there were just too many attacking players of similar position on the pitch.
It was, and it didn't look like that there was going to be a moment. Salah was incredibly quiet. They couldn't get anything sort of near to him, and he was well kind of kept out of the game. Interesting looking at his final record, actually, isn't for all the prolificness, and this isn't a dig at Salah because he's been one of the best players in the Premier League, no doubt about it. But in finals, it kind of quite doesn't always happen for him, and it seems to be another one today. He was very much on the periphery of it. We'll go to the chat on their thoughts on the game. Sean said, "Could Liverpool bottle 4 trophies in a row?" I mean, you're talking to a United fan and an Everton fan, so we're quite happy. But I think it's fair to say the Premier League is pretty much wrapped up. Simon says it wasn't a good weekend for Ant. Sunderland losing, Newcastle winning, and me bumping into him on Saturday. Well, there's a treble. There's a treble of a weekend for Ant. I'm sure. I've met Ant. Meeting Ant is lovely, so I'm sure you had a wonderful time, Simon, on top of the Coventry win as well. And then we've also got here Heather is with us. Hello to Heather. Welcome to Heather. You must be very happy for Mr. Eddie Howe as well. What a fantastic day for him, as well as all the Newcastle fans. But Rebecca, there was a goal. There was a goal for Liverpool. We had a VAR one that took about 17 minutes, as it's standard now. You know, that's the average time for a VAR decision that seems to be made. Chiesa pulled one back, and you suddenly felt this sort of surge around the stadium of like, oh no, come on. Did you think, for me, looking back on it, I think it was quite good because it kind of gave them that last minute sort of shock, and then it made the end even more exciting, I think, rather than just playing it out. But what did you think when Liverpool scored with 8 minutes of injury time left to go?
I mean, I'll be honest, I was getting my tea out the oven when they scored.
Rebecca was hungry. That was the answer to Liverpool's goal. Yeah. Rebecca was hungry.
But no, I mean, you just knew that like Liverpool would get one. There was the fear of, with how long VAR took and just everything with that it could have had the impact on Newcastle. I do have to say, I like the ref announcing it. I find that quite funny. They do it in the NHL and like they did it this, and I love it. It still doesn't explain a lot, but you just know that they know what reason they've made.
Yeah, I like the fact as well that he played into it a little bit as well. The decision is, and he kind of like played it as if he was like reading the winner is. The decision is a goal has been awarded.
Yeah, because it's like the Liverpool players are still confused as to whether it had been given or not, even after he'd announced it. So it was one of them where it was quite funny, but no. I feel as though if the goal would have come in like the 90th minute rather than the 94th, I think that would have been a bit more like oh God, here we go. We could be on for 2-2. But I still did think it was too late for them to be able to come back into it because the fatigue had set in at that point. The subs had been on for like as long as I can't even remember when like the first sub was made, but it was like you could just see that there wasn't much more going for Liverpool after that goal. But you are still sat there thinking, oh God, here we go. Please don't make it 2-2.
No, this is it. I normally love a Desmond, but on that occasion, I was thinking if this goes to 2-2 in extra time, this is a very, very different game indeed. Although Liverpool would have had to do something to that formation going into extra time. But at that point, they were chucking everything at it. Heather is so happy for the King Eddie winning. I mean, what do you think now, Rebecca? It's hard to say because it's only a few days removed. What this does for Newcastle overall, because it's been a little while now since the takeover. They went into the Champions League. They had that first season, that excitement. It didn't end so well in kind of the group stage. They dropped off in terms of the league a little bit last season. They're very much in the race for Champions League this season. How do they see? One is, how do they make this positive to get them in the Champions League this season? And what do you think longer term this does for Newcastle as a club for where they ultimately want to get to?
I feel as though we could have done without the international break in the middle of this for them, because I feel as though the momentum would have pushed them in the league going on. Like, you want your first match back after winning the cup to be at home in front of the fans, and I feel as though that's what's going to be missing with the international break just being put here. But I feel as though having the momentum from the cup final will massively help them. I mean, they've needed this. The fans have needed this, because we know what Newcastle can do. We know where they can be in the league, like you mentioned with Champions League. But it's one of them where they've just not had the moment to be able to be like, oh, they've got the trophy back behind them. So I feel as though it will massively impact, but in a positive way, because like they've got the backing of the fans, which they've always had, but it's even more now. Like, they know what they can have and they know what they can enjoy with this team. So I feel like it will have its positives, but it will put more pressure on Newcastle, because they have shown that they are a cup-winning side that can go on to do this. And if they're not continuously in finals or winning the trophies, then it will put more pressure on them. So I feel as though it is going to have its positives and negatives for them.
Yeah, it's going to set the standards a little bit higher, I think, and the expectations, as you say, once the excitement dies down, which seeing some of the celebrations in Newcastle won't be for a while. I mean, I can only imagine that the work day on Monday in Newcastle was not productive, and that's completely okay considering the circumstances. So it'll be interesting where Newcastle can kind of take it from here. Liverpool... the funny thing for me with Liverpool going in, because I was kind of, everyone was like, Liverpool going to win this, Liverpool going to win this. And I was kind of like, I wasn't as sure, to be honest. I mean, I'm speaking to the guys last week at sort of Loaded Mag. They obviously came on. It's got the excitement from them in terms of what it meant for Newcastle, but not only that they felt they were in with a real shot. Liverpool, couple of injuries. They dropped off a little bit in recent kind of weeks. It hadn't been that kind of same thing. They weren't playing a Liverpool side that were absolutely on the top of their game, fair to say, and absolutely on fire, and obviously one eye on the Premier League. It's just, I think from a position of where if you were looking for a title race, this is where it's disappointing there's not another side there challenging, because that would really test the mettle, I think, of this Liverpool side. Now, if you had a Manchester City that were coming like an absolute steam train, how would Liverpool now deal with that? And then if you had even like Arsenal last season, sort of pushing them, what would it kind of do to them? So, but Liverpool have had the season they've had and deserve to be in the position that they're at. So, and do not worry. There are questions about Dundee coming in the chat. Dundee will be spoken about at the end. Rebecca hasn't forgotten about Dundee. Of course, she's teased that there will be some Dundee love towards the back end of the show. So there we are. Carabao Cup final winners, Newcastle United, first trophy of the season. It's in their trophy bank. So what an exciting Sunday. But Sunday was very exciting because there was games everywhere. There was Premier League this week. Premier League did happen. There was 8 Premier League games. We've got a few of those to talk about because there's quite a lot going on with ramifications. The first one I picked out, Rebecca, was Bournemouth 1, Brentford 2. And this surprised me a bit, was how much of a good run of away form Brentford have been on, considering they had a very awful away run at the start of the season. They didn't win any of their first 9 Premier League away games this season. They've now won 5 successive away matches in the league, and they got a win at Bournemouth as well, which is showing this season isn't too bad to do. What do you make of Brentford's victory over Bournemouth?
I mean, it was a great win for Brentford. I mean, like you've just said, 5th away win in a row, and it has been something that Brentford have struggled with away form has been. But I feel as though quite a few teams have struggled away. I feel like there are teams that can do both, but then there's others that it's like you've a lot prefer home. But then it is one of them. It was a match of chances. Both teams could have taken it. I mean, Bournemouth taking an early lead, you're thinking, right, we all know what Bournemouth can do. We've seen what they've been like this season. It was an own goal. It was an unfortunate one, but that, like, you can't take away the fact that it was a really well worked bit of play, and it was an interesting one for Bournemouth because you are going into it thinking, right, both teams have been a bit up and down in form, picking up wins, but then they are also conceding and getting the losses, which has been unfortunate because they are both very, very good sides. But Brentford were able to bounce back from the goal quite. Just read Heather's comment. Brentford did bounce back with Wissa netting his. Oh no, wait, I think I've got my notes all mixed up here. I think I'm like mixed up my matches. But no, Bournemouth hit the bar and did have quite a few chances to be able to take it, but Brentford, they were unfortunately the better side, and as Heather said, I think they've not been able to win. Bournemouth haven't been able to win at Brentford for quite a while.
I think I saw that they've not beaten them in the Premier League since they've been in there. All 6 of the Premier League games, Brentford have won against Bournemouth, which is pretty incredible. As you say, Brentford are they've been a team that I think we sort of praised and they dropped off. They sort of praised, they've dropped off. But I think the fact that they've put this away run together really has been a nice kind of change to their season, because the home form was what we saw early on. And as the season's gone on, a lot of the talk early on was about Ivan Toney. There's no Ivan Toney. What about without Ivan Toney? And it was kind of, people forgot that for half of last season they didn't have Ivan Toney. Yeah. They've also got a bloke called Brian Mbeumo, and they've also got a bloke called Johan Visser. And again, Thomas Frank is another manager. He seems to be getting the best out of players, and you're now starting to see people like Kevin Schade come to the forefront, and then you had Christian Norgard, and I must admit, do love a good old-fashioned long throw-in goal as well, you know, and something comes up a long throw-in, that's proper British football. So I mean, Heather says there they've got a low block that they always struggle against. That it does seem that it's a matchup that suited very nicely for Brentford. So I mean, I guess the question is, Rebecca, where can Brentford finish? I mean, we'll stick the table up quickly because we'll come back to it at the end. But it's interesting to see that puts them 3 points behind Bournemouth on 41. So they're not too far off of a sniff of the places. I mean, it's the right kind of time to be coming into a bit of form, isn't it?
Yeah. Now is the time because you've got teams higher up trying to go for European and Champions League, and it's one of them where any team can slip up at this point. And anything is possible with the amount of matches that are left. I do think for Brentford, anywhere in the top 10, I think will be good for them, especially with the dips that they have had this season. If next season, if they are able to sort that out and get the team going with the run that they're currently on, I do think that they are going to be one that are pushing quite high up next season. I feel as though this season has just been one where they're able to identify what they have done wrong and what has caused the little dips to then be able to be right, we can do better with that. And then the run that they're currently on now, it's just what they needed to be able to be right, we are in contention for these higher up positions, and they've found where they've got the ability to be fighting higher up there.
Yeah, they have, and they've been sort of trading those places. And I guess saw some interesting stats this weekend that was saying that Well, first of all, that since Brentford have come up, they've never spent a single minute, it says, in the relegation zone since they've come up, in those early days as well, which is quite a feat. Obviously, now they've become very much an established. I think every season, I think we probably even fell into the trap. I think, Brentford will start to, but they don't. They do very well and kind of now deserve the respect as a well-established Premier League side. It's Thomas Frank's 50th Premier League victory in under 4 seasons in the competition, which only 10 teams have done that faster, and all of those were part of the original Premier League back in 92, 93. So they're all the names, the Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Everton, all of those teams that are there. So that's an incredible feat on its own. And Thomas Frank has also stayed kind of loyal to them. He's been linked to a number of jobs. No doubt he'll be linked again because that's kind of what happens. Do you feel he's kind of in that position with them where he's so part of that team? He reminds me a lot of a bit like I think he plays a very different style of football, but like Sean Dyche at Burnley, when they kind of had that, like the two things kind of came hand in hand, like a Tony Pulis and a Stoke, that it is his team. They play this way. They play the Thomas Frank way and whatever. And maybe we'll have seen like some of the Brighton managers in the past have tried to sort of jump on. What do you think Thomas Frank should do? Does he stick it with Brentford, or does he say, I want to try and chase something from a side that maybe could achieve European competition if Brentford can't be the ones?
So the name Sean Dyche haunts me. No, I feel as though I'm not. This is probably going to be me sitting on the fence with this one. I don't know, because it's one of them. I don't know if he's taken Brentford as far as he could get them, but then you just never know, because as we've seen this season, anything is possible within the Premier League, because I don't think any of us had Forest in the top 4. So I think
that's a fair point. No, I don't think we did.
It does just show that anything can happen. So he could be the manager that sees him into Europe, but then there's also the thing of, we've seen how long he has been with Brentford. We've seen it, but like they have been building significantly each season. So it is one of them where if he was to get offered somewhere else, it's on him whether he takes it or not. I do think it would be quite heartbreaking for Brentford to lose him, but whether he is the manager to see them into Europe, I'm not sure.
I mean, whatever happens, it's been a phenomenal. Yeah, he's done phenomenal, and if they can see the season out, whatever, the bees will be very pleased. Will be very pleased with that. And say for Bournemouth, it's a loss of Blit. That team's played a lot of games. I think a lot of intensity they've played, and they had, as you said, they had chances at the weekend. And then there was another day they might put one of them in and come away with a point, even though they maybe weren't at their best. So not one to get, I think, too panicky about from their side either. Even if I did put 3 of their teams in my fantasy league and only Milos Kerkez did me any good, but that's the things we have to go for. Moving on to another game in the Premier League. Fulham 2, Tottenham 0, because Tottenham just cannot win a game of football to save their toffee in the Premier League. Fulham 2, Tottenham. And not only that, Brian Sessegnon, Rebecca, he's only 24, I saw. I remember him playing for Fulham about 25 years ago. He's only 24. He's back, scoring goals against his former club. What did you make of the return of Ryan Sessegnon and Fulham's performance?
Yeah, Fulham, a great win for them in the hunt for European football. The first half, they were the better team. They had the better chances, and they were capitalising on defensive errors from Tottenham. There were quite a few where it's like either the keeper or Davis, I think it was, just passing it straight to the Fulham player, and you just know that you can't do that with Fulham. We've seen them this season again, like incredibly talented side. They are a dangerous side as well, so you just know if you are to slip up defensively, they are on it. Tottenham did have a few chances. It's like Dominic Solanke had a few, but it was nothing where you're like, oh, he should have netted that. It was one of them, keeper had it, or it was just nearly hitting the people on back row. So it was one of them, but it was defensive errors really for Tottenham. They had like 5 men in box, and you just have Fulham players just running past them. It's like, you know that you could, like, with the current Premier League of VAR and everything, you can't stick your leg out and try and get the ball like you would be able to in the past because it will be deemed as a penalty. But it's still one of them where they shouldn't just be stood there like watching them run past. But that was the issue for the first goal. And then the second of Ryan Sessegnon, incredible ball from Leno. Has he been credited with the assist? Because I think he should have been, but I don't know if the Tottenham player got a touch.
Yeah, he should have been. If they're funny with the assist rules, aren't they? We'll give it to him. Yeah. The Absolute Football Podcast says it was an assist. Yeah.
Yeah, because that ball is incredible, and then Sessegnon does well to take the touch, get it past the Tottenham defender, which I did think he was just about to yank him down at one point, but no, it was fair play to Fulham, but Tottenham, it's not great at the minute.
No, it's not. We won't go. I mean, I feel like we've had this chat about 17 times, so I'm not going to go into the whole and what's going on with that. But the gaps are incredible. Like the fans must be so frustrated because they're getting well played off by most teams in the Premier League at the moment, and down. And I think they're even below Man United. That's how bad they've been so far this season. That's my barometer of terrible, and they're below that. So
I think we're above them. I think.
And then we'll bring the table up. I'm sure they've dropped down into there we are down in.
They're above us.
Just
on
above.
Goal difference.
on goal difference. So they're still plus 12, but they don't half concede some silly goals to Spurs. But for Fulham, they've kind of gone a bit under the barometer, I think, a little bit when everybody's been talking about, should we say, overachievers, if you want to call them that. Nottingham Forest obviously get the plaudits because of where they're at. Even Brighton are now kind of on a bit of a run that's unbeaten run that's putting them in there. Bournemouth have obviously got sort of the credit they deserve too. But Fulham are slowly and sneakily getting results, and they seem to sort of peg a result after a bad home form in earlier season. They seem to have rectified that a little bit. You've got players. One thing, and maybe you can weigh in quite nicely on this, because obviously Marco Silva was once upon a time a manager of Everton. He seems to have done really well. Again, another manager working with players, improving them, players that he knows fits in well to a system, and getting the best out of what he has. And if he can get something a lot of Ryan Sessegnon, I mean, they sold him to Tottenham for 24 million. He had some injury issues; it didn't work out. Tottenham had a stockpile of players, and then on a free transfer, they brought him back. What do you think of how Marco Silva's doing at Fulham, and what did you make of him during his time at Everton? Was he similar for you guys when it was working?
With Fulham, I don't think you can fault him with what he's done, especially this season. The players he's got and how he's got them playing. I mean, Alex Iwobi has been a great signing for Fulham. I think that was one of ours where it was we had to sell him with FFP and everything, because I did really rate Alex Iwobi, and he is a good one in front of goal. Just a tiny bit off topic, it is officially 3 years yesterday since the Everton and Newcastle match in which Iwobi scored the 99th minute winner and the guy cable tied himself to the goalpost. known in parts as Iwobi Day. Yeah, well, Iwobi, or I think the guy that cable tied himself is called Louis, but he's got many different nicknames from Everton fans, and he is now like a saint of extra time because he was the one that got us the 9 minutes added on. But yeah, that's like the little. It came up in my memories yesterday because we were at
St. Patrick's Day, and then you got St. Louis. St. Louis Day.
The match that I still can't believe actually happened, when you've got a man cable tied to a goalpost and an Everton fan offering a steward a knife to cut him free.
Oh, nice, that's a game and a half.
But yeah, the way Marco Silva has Fulham playing, I mean, it's like Harry Wilson as well. He's an incredible player for Fulham. I can say that now that he left Liverpool and has been at Fulham long enough for me to be able to say that. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but yeah, I mean, for me, I don't really remember a lot of the Marco Silva era. I feel like we've been through that many managers that they're all just merging at one point. Because it's like, with how many we've been through, I mean, it's mad. It's mad how many we've seen at Everton. But yeah, I think it was one of them where his style of play did work at times for us, and the way that he was able to get players going and the players that he brought in for us. I think he may have been the one that got us Calvert-Lewin. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like it was
that long ago, was it?
I think. I
think
could be wrong.
Was it 19? Was he 18, 19? Was that Marco Silva? Because I think he had a bit of a break before he then went to... Because he's been at Fulham now for 3 seasons. This is his 4th season. It's his fourth year. So he's had quite a run in there now. I'd say, again, bring up the league table again because it's relevant again. Look at where they are. Fulham very close in touch. They're 45 points. 3 points behind Manchester City in 5th, which is the Champions League spot. It's very, very, very exciting, and Fulham sneaking away. And I remember they made the Europa League Cup final, didn't they? Atletico Madrid, long time ago for them. But it'd be nice if they could find their way back into Europe. And a very, very good season for Fulham. A team that aren't having that much of a good season, Rebecca, is Southampton. Say it quietly because it just seems to be week after week after week. They lost to Wolves, which, if anything else, if there was one weekend, I think, to kind of highlight a gap between the bottom 3 and the side just above, this was kind of it. But what I want to touch on is there's a lot of unrest in the Southampton fans and crowd. I mean, that they've accepted that they're going down. I think they've accepted that pretty much all season. They're 1 win away from trying to get away from this derby record, which is kind of hanging over them. But obviously, they let Russell Martin go. They've got in this new guy, Ivan Juric, and I think the feeling is at least Martin had a style. No one's really sure what the hell's going on with Juric. The players we know, the quality's not there, etc. But I think there was chance of get a striker on the pitch from the Czech. All this kind of stuff is not the kind of thing that says that they're happy with stuff that's going on. I mean, do you think this guy is going to be at Southampton very late? Can you see him leading them into the Championship at the end of the season, or is this kind of maybe a neutral part ways the way it's going, because it's starting to turn sour again?
Yeah, I feel as though as soon as the end of the season comes, he will be gone. I can't see Southampton keeping him for a season in the Championship, because we all see how hard it is to get like within the Championship. Apart from, we do see a few that become the yo-yo teams, but it's like you look at Luton now. I know it's like a bit different, but it's like they're currently on for back-to-back relegations, which you just don't expect. And it just shows the difference between the Prem and the Championship. And like, I don't want to badmouth this manager, and this isn't what I'm like trying to get at. But if you're not good enough at the minute in the Prem, it can be very risky within the Championship, because we know Southampton, they can be one of these where they have had spells within the Prem. They haven't always been like the yo-yo team of going up and down like your Norwiches were. So it is one of them where it could be an interesting one to see what they end up doing, whether it's going to be before the end of the season or the end of the season. But it is quite sad to see Southampton struggling as much as they are, and like the impact that it's having on the fans again. I mean, like, you never want to see any club struggling with form within the league, and it's just the effect that it's having, because, I mean, I can't really say much because one of Southampton's 2 wins is against Everton. So you're welcome, Southampton. We'd let you have that one to cheer about, but it's not a good time for them, and I can't see them getting another win this season. I really can't.
It's looking dangerous as you said, there's only 2 all season. Matthew agrees. He thinks they'll get fewer points than Derby County. He says they're playing like a team from the National League. I mean, I think the thing is, I mean, it's always with the benefit of hindsight that you go, now the fact that nothing's happened and they got rid of Russell Martin, they brought in you. It's almost like you'd have been better off sticking with Martin, and then at least you kind of know where you're at. And I thought it was really interesting. He was on Monday Night Football, I want to say last week or not too long ago, actually, and he was talking about how he was trying to play at Southampton, what he was doing and some of the stuff. And I thought he came across really well. And then he was also a little bit like, we maybe could have done this a bit, and maybe that might have helped us. And you could tell he was kind of a young manager who'd learned by doing in the Premier League and learned with a baptism of fire. So I get the feeling that he'll be in a good stead beyond that. And maybe he'll be the sort of manager that maybe the next role he goes into, then he's got that extra from it. And I just think, I get they were down there. They felt we needed a new manager bounce. We needed something. But we all said at the start of the season, the squad just wasn't there. The squad's just not there. The goals aren't there. And then when you added the fact that they were making lots of errors at the back, that compounds and makes worse errors. So it's just beyond and beyond and beyond. But Heather's giving you some support. Don't worry, Rebecca. We gave Leicester their only clean sheet. We've got a couple more games we're going to talk about, which because we're on, we can talk about our teams. Why not? Rebecca, you can talk about Everton. Everton won West Ham, the David Boys derby. Tell us how it went.
In which it is also on the back of him winning Manager of the Month.
Oh, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, it's one of them. Like, absolutely love David Moyes. Did not want him winning Manager of the Month, although he thoroughly deserves it for what he's done since coming into Everton. But we all know the curse of that award. Thankfully, touch wood, touch any, like, I'm not going to jinx it. This hasn't happened yet with us getting a draw. But, I mean, heading into this one, I did think it had draw written all over it. It was just one of them where, yeah, we have been in really good form recently, but you always know that is going to come to a point where you go a bit like, And I think that's the best way to describe it with how we were playing. But if it wasn't for Pickford, we could have got, I think it was like 3-4 they could have had. It was just one of them where incredible goalkeeping from Pickford. I think it was Bowen's header. I think that's like the main clip of one of his saves that Sky have shown. We did have a few chances in the first half, but it was nothing too challenging for West Ham. But they kicked off the second half, the better team. Souček scoring. It was an annoying one to concede. I think it came down the left. They just ran past us, and I think like it was just one of them where Pickford nowhere near it. It was just like, oh great, here we go. The curse of Manager of the Month has happened, because we were at Accrington and I had it coming through on my watch, and I got the notification. I just nudged my dad, and I won't repeat the words that he said because the show could get cancelled. But there were a lot of swear words involved. But what an equaliser from Everton. Jake O'Brien on the score sheet again for us. I think he's 6'6" defender.
He dwarfs. He makes Dan Burn look like look a short defender.
Yeah, incredible cross from Idrissa. Found Jake O'Brien, just nodded it in, and 1-1. We could have won it. There was a really good chance from Alcaraz, but he should have been hitting the target with that one. Yeah, it's one of them that'll haunt you. When you see it, it's one of them, it's like, how? But my main thing from all of this is I would love to know what Daesh was thinking not playing Jake O'Brien and saying that he wasn't Premier League ready at all during his time at Everton, because he was one that bought him. He brought him into Everton. The only way a player is going to get Premier League ready is to play them. And clearly he has been Premier League ready, because he has been such an incredible addition to our defence, and we have missed, like, we miss this kind of setup in the defence. I mean, we do have an incredibly tall defence of Jared, Jake and Tarky, like, all hitting over 6 foot, so it is quite an intimidating defence, but it's just the talent from him as well, and he settled in so quickly into what Moyes wanted from him and into the partnership of him, Jared and Tarky. So it is one of them where it's like, I don't want to keep mentioning him, but it's going to keep happening, because we have just gone from a completely different style with Daesh to now Moyes, where we're playing football. We're not just settling. With Daesh, we could have, like, it was more than likely we'd have got beat 1-0 because Jake O'Brien wouldn't have been on the pitch.
Yeah, it's nice to see. As you said, it's strange that you bought him and then didn't back him, particularly at the time when it was you were conceding goals. It wasn't like your defence was absolutely tearing it up. To not give him a chance at that point And so for him to get a couple of goals. And the other one you mentioned there, what have you made of Carlos Alcaraz? So recent weeks he's been putting in some good performance and has been a nice little addition to the team.
Yeah, I feel like we've needed him with the loss of Calvert-Lewin. We didn't have Chimetti at the time either. And then we also had Brozier injured. So we didn't have that striker or that attacking option, really. We did have Beto, and he did go through his really good goal-scoring spell. But you need a backup. And that is clear with a lot of teams. You need to have a backup to your striker. And to bring him in, he is a good one for us. I think he scored on his debut as well, which is just always nice to see. And he's got a really good link up and friendship going with Jack Harrison. So that's always nice to see, of trying to get Jack Harrison into the side as well, because he has come under quite a lot of scrutiny from Everton fans, which all players have their up and down days, and it's one of them where you support your team, you don't start. I think I've seen a Twitter account which is how many days until he leaves Everton, and they've done it as a countdown. And it's just things like that where you back your team and you back your players. They all go through these spells of you weren't playing great, but you've also got to consider what manager he was playing under. And we did have him under Dyche, and he's completely different under Moyes. We have a Jack Harrison that is attacking and that can score. He's getting chances into the box. He's having shots, whereas it looked like he was kind of scared to do that with Dyche, and he also never got the chance. But it's the same with Jesper Lindstrom as well. Incredibly talented player, and I think I was reading in an interview he's done while he's with Denmark international-wise. He's happy to stay at Everton and wants to stay at Everton because he's only on loan at the minute. I would love for us to be able to sign him. But it's again, we have a completely different attacking side now, and it is clear to see with the chances that we are getting. I mean, the West Ham match, we'll take the point. It's a point where, again, it's another one pulling us away from the likes of Wolves and the bottom three. So we do have the cushion now, and it is nice to be able to enjoy the matches and enjoy thinking, oh, a draw's a draw, whereas we're not sat there going, oh, we needed to win that. So it is quite nice as an Everton fan at the minute.
This is it. You can just hopefully relax to the end of the season with a new stadium, with new manager, so opportunities in the summer. It's positivity to come.
I'm visiting the new ground on Sunday.
Well, there you go. Get ready for Rebecca's photographs. They're going to be all over the internet of Bramley Park Stadium, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is Everton under-21s against a Bolton 11.
A Bolton 11.
Yeah. We don't know, because they've not said it's the academy or anything. They've not said it's an unders. They've just said the Bolton team. So
the Bolton. I suppose it depends. Are they playing this weekend with international games? Maybe it might be a mix of those that aren't on international duty. Maybe that's why. It's a mix. I think some do and some. Funnily enough, Bolton are no, there is no League One. I was going to say Bolton are the next fixture, but that's the 29th. So yeah, you may well face part of the Bolton. It may be part of the Bolton team. Some of those on the periphery. So interesting stuff. And talking of positivity, I get to talk about Bruno, because we do talk about Bruno on this show. Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United, get a comfortable win on a Sunday evening, which is not something I have been able to say much this season. I was able to watch the Carabao Cup final and then was like, here we go. Here's Man United. But to be fair, a very poor Leicester City team. Very poor. We've played them 4 times now this season. That's the worst I have seen them, and they weren't great in the previous performances I saw against us either. They played quite well at times in the FA Cup, but that was pretty turgid. But Bruno Fernandes has been on absolute fire the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks. He really has been. Considering the situation, the pressure at Manchester United every day, everything nonsense coming out on the club seem to sort of like want to create chaos every day with new announcements of ticket prices or sacking people or 70 billion stadiums that no one knows how we're going to finance. There's been all sorts of stuff over the last few weeks, as well as the fact that we've been terrible in the league and are well away from any kind of anything in the league, to be honest. But Bruno Fernandes has been a hat-trick in midweek against Real Sociedad. He's been in the goals amongst the Premier League, both goals and assists. He's got, I think, 8 goals and 9 assists this season, which is pretty incredible considering how terrible that we've been and the fact that we haven't got anybody who can put the ball in the net either. So the fact he's managed to get that many assists is pretty impressive. So he was at the forefront of it. Rasmus Højlund scored a goal. Which from a United perspective, you hope will give him a bit of confidence. And it's nice because, I mean, it's not, like you said, Rebecca, you want to support your players. And like there is a case with United at the minute, a number of them aren't what we need. They're not what we need, or not what long term that you think the club should have. But at the minute, it's what you've got. You can't do anything about it until the summer at the very earliest. And we've got FFP problems, and some of them are young players. And he just felt so sad. Like in midweek, he just couldn't. You could see the panic on his face when a chance came. It was like, oh, and it just snatched down. I think he just needs one, and he got one. So hopefully it can calm it down. Matthew is asking, how is Ruud van Nistelrooy still in a job? He's lost 13 of his last 14 Premier League games. He's honestly the worst manager in the league. It's tough because I love Ruud. He's the best dressed manager in the league, and tell you that. What an absolute piece he's on the side with. He looks the part. But yeah, it's tough to say that it's worked out so far with Leicester. I mean, again, I suppose, Rebecca, as we said with Southampton, though, the squad is just not. It's not there, is it? There's not a real sort of chance. They're still playing. No disrespect to Jamie Vardy, but he needs some help up there as well. Leicester, I mean, I'm sure you didn't see the game against Man United, but generally you kind of can't argue their league position either.
No, but it's one of them with the manager. He has inherited this team, and that is like a big thing that you have to consider this season. This is the team that he's inherited and had to work with. Like, was he in before January?
It was January, yeah, because he did a stint with us for a couple of games, and then, yeah, January time.
So, depending on whether he got that transfer window, but even then, it's like your January transfer window isn't like your rebuilding period. You just get a few in for injuries and stuff. So, to say what he's trying to do with that Leicester team, as you've said, like, it's not the greatest Leicester team. It's like we know what Leicester can do. Whether they should be in that position within the league is like questionable, but I feel as though, like, not with recent form, like with what we have seen from Leicester. I mean, they won the league, whether that was the most random season I think we've seen, but it just shows that they are a team that can be in the Prem and can do well in the Prem, whether that is top 10 or just like sitting in 15th maybe. But it is one of them where I feel like this season has just been a struggle for them. And I do think if they are to keep the manager, he could do well with them in the Championship, and he might be able to find his level there to maybe help him get back up. But it's one of them, you can just never tell, because it's like, as I mentioned with Luton, you'd think that they'd be straight back up with how they did last season, but it's just one of them where we're looking at them being in League One.
Yeah, it can happen that you can have that double whammy. We don't always get the fact that there's a double whammy, and some fight back and come straight back up, as you say, are fighting. You look at the sides that are up there this season. It's the sides that kind of came down, apart from Luton, plus Leeds, your suspects. I suppose you've got Sheffield United are there, Burnley are there, and Leicester in the past have been quite good at doing that, of going down and then being able to rebuild and have a good Championship city structure. A Championship structure for them. So, I mean, obviously, I'm biased because I love Ruud van Nistelrooy and I'd like to see him given the chance at Championship. It could be one that it could get a bit dicey if they do, and then early part of the season doesn't start well. Because So I've been looking at a lot of the Championship this year, and it's extremely competitive. The sides that don't go up will still be there. There's some big sides that are coming and rebuilding and have been in great form. That if they don't get up, they're going to be there to challenge. So there's no guarantee. And although we have seen kind of the top 3 jump away a bit, and we'll probably see that next season, there'll be at least one of the promoted sides will no doubt come back with a bit of storm, and maybe it will be Leicester, but certainly this season they've not been fantastic. So we'll close off the Premier League. We're not finished though. Don't go. There's more to come. Premier League match day at 29 as it was. The games we didn't touch on. Another that are in poor relegation form. Ipswich 2, Nottingham Forest 4. It could have got worse actually. It was almost sort of Ipswich. Those couple of goals Forest would be disappointed to have conceded because they were sort of battering at the hatches. So that puts Forest in 3rd place. Look at that. Absolutely fantastic season, doing exceptionally well up there. So looking well. I don't want to say sure because I don't want to rub anything in for Forest to jinx anything this far into the season, but it's getting closer. It's getting closer, Forest fans. You can smell it. Manchester City 2, Brighton 2. Quite an entertaining game at the Etihad. Brighton continue their unbeaten run. They've been on quite the tear that's put them back in that position, and a sort of a hard-fought sort of game. We're starting to see a little bit more of a different look. Manchester City. Another goal for Marmoush. He's certainly been one that's added something nice to the City side. So they look like they're still very much in that fight, and you wouldn't bet against them at the back end of the season. And then the other game we didn't touch on, which was the North London derby. It wasn't as exciting as some of the other games over the weekend. There's only one real moment to talk about. Mikel Merino with a flicked header. They finally scored a corner again, which was obviously Arsenal's bread and butter early on in the season. They got a victory over a pretty turgid Chelsea. And Chelsea season's turning a little bit, Rebecca, isn't it? A few sort of losses. They're still in 4th and still kind of overachieving where they are. But you do wonder how it's all going to go down if they sort of drop off a little bit, and it seems to dip off. What are you making of Chelsea's dip in recent weeks?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think again, like Cole Palmer, big miss for Chelsea at weekend. I feel as though him being injured isn't going to help. It's just one of them. It's Chelsea. This dip is just Chelsea, and I think that's the only way to describe it. It's like with Tottenham, like they do it, like they're just Spursy, but Chelsea are Chelsea, and I think like that's the only way that I can describe them for this like little dip that they're going through, because like you can expect it at times with how they play against certain teams. But no, I do think it is going to be interesting to see which between City and Chelsea get top 4. I think that is going to be like the biggest one of who will get it.
It is interesting, and particularly as 5th is pretty much like 99.9% on. I think now when looking at the coefficients, we'll get Champions League 2. So when you consider, when you consider behind that, you've got the Newcastle off the back of the cup final win, Brighton in great form, Fulham, as we said, you wouldn't rule Aston Villa out as well with sort of the additions they made towards the end of the season. Bournemouth are still well in that fight as well. It's very, 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 very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I was almost removed my own camera then instead of removing this. We don't want to get rid of it. We don't want to get rid of that. But what is also very interesting is, of course, the first England squad under Thomas Tuchel was announced this weekend. Not this weekend, this week, whenever it was. He announced it on a day in the calendar. And it didn't go without discussion, Rebecca. It didn't go without notice. Because I think a lot of people's reaction was, sorry, what?
Like, did I read that right?
Sorry, what now? I missed the announcement. It was only then when I was of course at someone went. They said the England squad's just come out, and they read some of the names. I was like, nah, you've got some old article there. What's this all about? What's happened? So, I think should we start with probably the most controversial name, should we say, that's in there? And this isn't a slight on the player. This isn't a slight on, but we seem to be going backwards a bit because Jordan Henderson back in the England squad, Rebecca. Wow.
I read the team and was like, oh, Dean Henderson's in. And then I saw Henderson again. I was like, why have they put him on twice?
He's so
like,
good, he's in twice.
Why has he become a midfielder as well as a keeper now? No, it is a shock. I mean, it's been a while since he's been in an England squad, and I think everyone is shocked that he is in the England squad because I thought we'll pass that time. Like, as you said, this isn't on him. This isn't like anything like that. It is just one of them where we've had that time of him being in the team. Even Gareth Southgate, who had his moments as manager, made the change of not putting him in, and all of a sudden he's back. He just reappeared.
he has returned. I mean, Ajax are top of the Eredivisie, but Eredivisie, he does have great experience. I get that he's a leader. I get all of that aspects. Those qualities are still amongst him, but it's no different to when we were talking about him not being there. The legs with the midfield and we would think what we're trying to do. I just don't. I just don't understand it. I would when. Again, no disrespect to the player, but the type of player we're not talking about, it's not like an Andrea Pirlo or somebody that sits at the base of the midfield is going to dictate play and is going to be a lot of Henderson's was on running about and busy and all of this. And there's just options that are more going forward than going backwards. This is what this feels is going backwards. I mean, names like Adam Wharton, who has been brilliant for Palace in recent months, is a great option. I mean, okay, he's in there now, and I know he doesn't quite play in the same position as Henderson, but Morgan Gibbs-White wasn't in the squad until Cole Palmer dropped out. He's been fantastic this season. You know, he's been a massive part of the Nottingham Forest squad in third position. Now, I mean, look, we haven't seen Thomas Tuchel's side play. We don't exactly know what's going to happen. You know, we all want to back him and we want to be behind him. But I mean, he certainly has raised some eyebrows with that pick. As you said, I just don't. Yeah, I don't get it. I think everyone's kind of the same. Like Gareth kind of dealt with this. We moved on. We said, and it happens to every player, and we've seen it happen to legends of England where they get. You know, we had it where there was a point where we had to move past David Beckham. There was a point we had to move past Wayne Rooney. There becomes that point, and I just feel like, particularly now with the midfield talent that we have, like, and if he just wants him around the squad and he wants to learn some stuff off him or whatever, then fine. And again, the matches we're playing, I mean, Albania and Latvia, no disrespect to either of those sides, but it's not the sort of sides that we're going to be looking to hopefully defeat in the World Cup to get some glory. You'd be hoping, I mean, I think people will be frustrated if you're like, he's looking at that rather than giving minutes to people like Curtis Jones, giving, you know, minutes to the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White or Morgan Rogers or all of this, that and the other, because we're trying to shoehorn a Henderson in. As we said, I get in some positions, sometimes you're like, oh, who else did you get? But I think there's plenty. I think, you know, there's, as we said, Adam Wharton just screamed to me, unless there's some knock or reason, but it just doesn't, I don't get it. But we don't want to focus on just Jordan Henderson.
With Adam Wharton, he has been training with the team. There's been 3 under-20, because he's been picked for the under-21 side. There's been 3 under-21s that have trained with the 26-man first team.
So maybe there's a case of are the under-21s playing, is it a key match for them? Is it, or are they just playing a group stage? Have they got, maybe theirs is a huge qualifier game. I'm not particularly too sure, to be honest. So maybe there's something in that. So we'll see. We love a bit of Tommy Tukes. We'll get him behind it. You know, this is positive England moving forward. But any other surprises for you, Rebecca? Maybe in the defensive region, should we say?
Where is Jared Branthwaite? That's my question. Where, like, is it?
He's in the home, Rebecca. That's what the answer is.
He's in the under-21s.
Oh, he is as well. Everyone's in the under-21s.
Yeah, no, that is my question, because he is like, yes, Everton have had issues with defence, but Jared Branthwaite has been our main go-to defender. He is an incredible defender. He is also an anomaly amongst defenders. He's left-footed centre-back. There's not many of them when you look at centre-backs. So that is also something that can work. There is like the talk of he's not been picked because of where Everton are in the league. But my argument for that is, I know this is my Pickford is still England's number one and will forever be England's number one until the time comes where he has to pass that on. But if you're looking at still picking Pickford, you can look at the Everton defenders. It's like Tarkowski, he's one of these where you can understand why he's not been picked. He is like one of the older ones. But Jared is an up-and-coming youngster that get him in and around the squad now in prep for the World Cup that is coming up, because I feel as though that is what's needed. Even if he didn't play, just have him in and around the squad. But it's one of them, like Heather says, the under-21s team is so much better than the first team.
It's quite exciting, yeah.
It is so good, but it's just baffling as to why Jared isn't there, because he has been picked for the first team before. So this is like a massive kick to him, because he has now essentially been dropped and just put back in the under-21. So it's one of them where that one's annoyed me. Another one, Callum Hudson-Odoi. Is he English or is he like dual nationality? Because
he's English, I think, isn't he? I think he's been he's done a lot in the under-21s in the past, hasn't he? Yeah.
I don't get why he's not in. I mean, when you saw Morgan Gibbs-White not being there, you knew there was no chance he could also be there. But I feel as though he's another one that's been missed.
Yeah, he's got 3 caps. Yeah. He's a strange one. I mean, you've got Heather's not happy. Say Lewis Cook robbed as well, particularly say again in that midfield area where we could have had. I think the defense is a bit. Look, I mean, what a fantastic week for Dan Burn, England call up as well. So we have to sort of credit that as a fantastic one for him to kind of get that. And I think that's nice to have that story of someone that's been playing for so long and hasn't had that opportunity. But I look at some. For me, if you look at the defence, there's a couple of questions. One for me would be Jarrell Quansah at Liverpool. I think good player. I don't think had a great season. I think struggled a little bit when he's kind of come in, etc. I think that's another case of it's the Liverpool factor. You know, I know he's featured a bit because they've had struggles, but I've not been wowed by him this season, if I'm honest. Carl Walker's now another one, like we're going to have to make a decision, not moving past he's out at AC Milan, etc. And again, not a great season. I get maybe at right back, there's a few, you know, we're limited a little bit. He has picked Livramento there. Obviously, Trent's injured, so that takes that one out. We've got Reece James, who's not really been playing there / playing at all. I know he knows him from Chelsea, but there's a bit of that. We've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, of course. We're probably short again on the left side with injuries, and it is very early for him. But I suppose, you know, one of those, okay, not too massive issue kind of with that one. I like that Morgan Rogers is in there for Villa. I like that. That's a positive one.
The issue with the left could have been resolved. Play your back 3 defence with Jared there.
We don't. What's Tommy Tukes has got a plan, Rebecca? We don't know what it is yet.
He does, because at this moment I don't think he does, and I'm a bit scared.
We need a plan. We need a plan because it's going to matter when we get to next summer. I mean, hopefully we'll have a glorious this summer, but next summer is the one. You know, this plan has to be. So at the minute we're prepared to sit and understand and wait and see what the plan we've got. The other one that obviously raised a bit of eyebrows was Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford back in the England squad, as you said, when Callum Hudson-Odoi is not in there, and one or two others, but you have got injured so you have got people like Bukayo Saka is out injured at the minute. Jack Grealish is absolutely AWOL for Manchester City. So like, we don't know where he's gone. Disappeared off of the kind of roof of it. What did you make of Rashford? And obviously has had a couple of impact should we say, good games for Aston Villa and for United. He always performed that role very well coming off the bench, but him getting in the England squad, I don't know what your thoughts are. And this is, for me, I just want to see Rashford playing at the minute and playing for Villa. And I probably would have said, look, get your head down and play for Villa this season. Get that to the end of the season. You've got the Champions League coming up. You've got get that sorted, and then we'll see where you're at when we get to the start of next season, whether we include. And so I get what Heather said. Rashford has been good since he's gone to Villa, but he hasn't started many games. It's been impact stuff, and I think he does give you that impact thing off the bench. But can you justify it over Hudson-Odoi at the minute? I think I want to see Rashford's head sorted to the end of the season with Villa. and then get his confidence back. And I just think, and maybe I could be, if he comes on for England and scores, then suddenly, maybe you nudge Rashford up another couple of notches. But I think it's quite harsh. Do you think Rebecca on one or two of the players that would have been left out because of him?
Yeah, I feel as though I think with Rashford it's like a safe option for Tuchel in a way because of it being England, and we've seen what Rashford can do with England before. But I do feel as though, yes, he has been good since he's joined Villa, but he needs to be getting continuous play at Villa, and I feel as though that needs to be what his focus is to be able to get back into the England squad, because there are players that have had an incredible season, like Hudson-Odoi, that have been dropped for Rashford. And like, I'm not saying
Ollie Watkins at Villa as well.
Watkins, yeah. And although there's like the rumour of he's injured, apparently, I don't know.
There must be, because that was the one for me when it said, "Where's Watkins?" I was like, surely that must be injury, because
but it's like with Rashford, I mean, like, fair play, he's a good player, but I do think this is rushed, and I don't think he should have been in this England squad yet. I feel as though Tuchel should have waited and seen how he does at Villa and lets him focus on Villa, because we need Rashford back to Rashford, if that makes sense. It's like he's had a difficult first half of the season and we're just starting to see him back. So it's one of them where I do feel like this is rushed.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I say, we'll see, and I suppose it's about getting confidence. And this international window is always the strangest, because you've got players that have got one mind on the end of the season. There's no international tournament this summer, so people aren't trying to get in the squad for this summer. They're trying to get themselves so they're in the squad for the qualification for next season leading up to the World Cup. So it's always a very weird kind of time. So Heather says Watkins is injured, says he came off in their Champions League game, so maybe that knock's got a little bit more to it. And of course, there's 4 goalkeepers as well. Four goalkeepers. I mean, maybe this is Tommy Tuchel's superb. He's going to find a way to get 2 goalkeepers into the team, which has never ever been seen before in world football. Maybe he's going to play a goalkeeper at the centre back and they switch gloves or something. He's a thinker. He's a thinker, is our Tommy Tukes, and says leave Trafford at home. He could do it. He would remind me. I could just imagine that Pickford coming up in the last minute. You can see it, screaming at everybody as he does so.
Yeah,
you could well see it.
But it's like with the keeper thing, could he not have just picked 3 and then we'd have at least had like an extra player within the team of your Hudson-Odoi or your Gibbs White at the time, and then it's just like another option. But
yeah, I get it. I mean, I get so where Heather was saying leave Trafford at home. Trafford's been fantastic for Burnley, the clean sheet record in the Championship. But like, you can't. Pickford's number 1, no doubt about it. There's obviously question marks over his 2. You can't deny Dean Henderson, you can't deny Aaron Ramsdale either. So I get is the problem, but it's a good problem to have. And I think you set the stall out and say, yeah, as you say, maybe he wants to have a look at all of them, but is there I mean, can you not call players up to train, just not to be in the squad? He could do, if he wants to have a look at everybody, call up 80 players, just don't tell the FA, just they don't have to play in the friendly. Get them all down there and have a massive, when people have to set their team
under 21s.
Yeah. Like when the universities have got like 7 teams they've got to fill on like Freshers Week, and they just chuck like 150 players down, and then they just pick from them. Just do that. Get every English player in the top 3 divisions down, and see what they can do. Why not? This is probably why I'm not involved in the FA or the England setup, which is probably for the best.
You got players from League 1 and 2 in.
They've deserved their right, Rebecca. They deserved their go,
They're playing in the England squad.
If he passes his trial, you never know. If he has a good day, he might look a world beater. Anything else on the England squad, or are you ready to go further north?
I'm ready to go further north.
Go on then. We said Rebecca could have her moment because it was, of course, the Dundee Derby, which I did say it doesn't have another name, does it? It's just the Dundee, which is good because I like this. That's good to say, the Dundee Derby. But the Dundee Derby was this weekend, and it was a win for the Blues.
Yes, it is official. Dundee is dark blue, which is very nice to say. I mean, it was a very entertaining match, and if this match is this is the sign, watch the Scottish Prem, because it is absolutely nuts. is that we had the Old Firm derby as well, which that match was another incredible one, 3-2 to Rangers, I believe, in which there's a player currently under investigation for spraying a water bottle at some of the fans after they scored. But yeah, it was Dundee United and Dundee. The final score was 4-2 to Dundee, in which it could have been more. I do feel the pressure was more on Dundee, having heading into this one, St Johnstone had closed the gap at the bottom of the table, and just like the recent run of form for Dundee, it has been very up and down. I mean, there were 2 consecutive 6-0s. They got beat in the cup against Hearts. There was a 1-1 draw in the middle of that with St Johnstone, which was it was a really strong point for them. But this match had everything. There were goals, there were VAR controversy, there was a red card, there was a penalty. It all happened. They just saved it for that match. Dundee took the lead in the 12th minute through Lyle Cameron, in which it was ruled offside. I am still confused as to where this offside happens. They showed the lines very briefly. Adewumi's not offside. It's another one of them where it should have been a goal, but it doesn't matter because Dundee carried on with their high press, and it didn't take too long afterwards for them to get a goal from Jordan McGee. It was a diving header, which it was just, they capitalised on a United issue with defence, which it was an interesting one. And then the goals just kept flowing with Scott Tiffany. He got the second, in which the Dundee United keeper, I don't know what he was thinking. He has gone to catch the ball. The ball has gone through his hands and trickled him.
Oh.
Yeah. United did pull one back with a decent strike, but it was cancelled out very quickly again. And this is all just in the first half. It was
what a boring game. Sort it out. The derby as well.
Because it was within the first 5 minutes, a player went off injured after a challenge. I think he had butted one of the boards around the side after there was a bit of a bit of a shove involved. So it was there was a bit of everything. But yeah, Jordan McGee netted his second. A really, really nice strike from him. They did go 4-1 up before half-time, but it got ruled offside again.
Was it offside, this one? Where were the lines?
This one he was offside. But it was one of them, it was quite annoying because it was an own goal as well. So it's if this player hadn't have been involved in the build-up, it would have been given. Even if he was offside, it was because it being an own goal, it just came off him. But heading into half-time, 3-1, could have been 5-1. It was very entertaining. Second half, United did start quick and they did pull one back, and you sat there thinking, oh God, it could go 3-3. You just don't know what's going to happen. They just couldn't get past the defence in the second half. But I do think Dundee were playing an 11-man defence at this point. It was just throw anyone at it. They did only make one change, which was late on in the 90th minute, which saw Finlay Robertson come on. So I was very happy at that point. Ryan did nearly make an appearance, but the defender wasn't as injured as they thought, so they told him to go and sit back down.
Just to make sure his legs are still working. They go a bit nervous on the bench. So.
Yeah. And then Dundee were awarded a penalty after Adebayoga, I think it's. Apologies for pronunciation. He brought down Simon Murray. He also got sent off for this challenge. Simon Murray, he did score the penalty. In which it was quite funny because he ran the whole length of the pitch to celebrate in front of the United fans that threw a vape at him in the first half. So he ignored the Dundee fans celebrating and all the players trying to catch him, sprinted to the other end of the pitch just to wind them up, I guess, or whatever it was.
Full Adebayor, as we call it.
Simon, incredible player for Dundee, leading goal scorer this season. He's a really good one. And then the celebrations after the match, it was very, very good to see. The manager happy as well, which we've not seen recently. And then it was a needed win, especially with the cut-off coming in 3 matches now. So it does look like Dundee are going to be within the relegation cut-off. So that was the last derby of the season. But yeah, it was very entertaining.
There we go. The spoils go to Dundee. What a wonderful way to end a wonderful Tuesday evening of football discussion. Thank you so much to Rebecca, who has saved all of you from just me talking at you, which nobody wants that for an hour or so. So thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca. Always a blast. We've got plenty of football and plenty of stuff coming up this week to talk to you about. But first of all, where can everybody find more Rebecca and your Formula One podcast and her Game 2 ice skating and taking over the world? Like, what's going on?
You can find my personal Twitter and TikTok, which is _Rebecca_Shaw_. You can find my Her Game 2 content with ASFC Her Game 2, in which we celebrated International Women's Day a week later because of the fixtures, but we had a lot of fun. We've got a selfie frame, so lots of fans got involved with that, and so did the players. So there are quite a few photos on our social medias there. Her Game 2 ice hockey as well, and then my Formula One podcast is with the amazing Jen, who is on the Lower League show on a Thursday. We did record one today, which will be going out very soon, and it's a wrap up of the Australian Grand Prix. And that is with Girls in the Grandstand.
Very good. I did enjoy the F1 being back, actually. I found that I'm not one to get up in the middle of the night to watch it, but actually the 13-minute highlight video that I found just did exactly what I needed, just perfectly. So that was a good one. Plenty, I'm sure, to talk about with that race. And I am at Sam Absolute FBL, which is mostly on Twitter, and then I am at Sam Absolute EFL on YouTube, doing a championship match day video this week with all the stats and how exciting that's been getting. So check out my championship match day video and on TikTok as well under at Sam Absolute EFL. And of course, the most important thing, the socials of the podcast. We are Best New Content Creator of the Football Content Awards 2024. That was a real thing that happened. We say this every week. We're not lying to you. There is a thing. There are videos. There's proof. There's evidence. You can find it. There's a trophy in Josh's house somewhere. It happened. That is for sure. And we are the Absolute Football Podcast, and we do bring you football shows every week, multiple days of the week. We are, of course, the Absolute Premier League team on a Tuesday. We will be looking at some stage. We've got some of the team are coming back. There's lots of stuff going on. So I think to Premier League, you may see some different faces over the next few weeks as we get through to next season. I'm sure we'll have a sort of more of a steady team, but lots changing at the minute. But great, whoever joins us on that one. Absolutely Women's Football on Wednesday. #Team Chaos with Freya and the team. And we can announce that Freya has a very exciting announcement about an upcoming episode tomorrow. So do join that, particularly at the start. There is something she'll be having. But if you start, you might as well stay because it's so much fun with Team Chaos. Catch them on a Wednesday. And on Thursday, it is the wonderful Shah and the Rowdy Rabble, talking everything from EFL Championship through to National League North and South, even to the Spennymoor third lower division. It can go any way on that show, but they talk about all of the football there. Don't miss them on Thursday at 8:30. We are Absolute Ball Pod on Twitter. We are Absolute Football Podcast on YouTube and Twitch. On TikTok, Absolute Football Pod. On Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast _ Blue Sky, Absolute Football, and on Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast. So we are practically everywhere. And say, what a week. What a wonderful week of football. More football to come. International football. Get those England shirts back out. It's Tommy Tuch's time. We don't know what he's doing, but we're trusting in it for now. And we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao for now.